Alright everybody, welcome back to the Superlite coupe build. We are looking at the supercharged LT4 engine that's going to power the Superlite. In the coming months, this engine will be going into the chassis for the final time. And in this episode, we are going to reclock the alternator. Okay, so stay tuned. Alright, so let's see. So a little background on why we're doing this. So here's a pic of the alternator attached to the LT4 engine. You can see the charging post sticks out the side. Ideally if it was sticking up a bit, maybe at the 10 o'clock position, not at the 9 o'clock position, it would work. But here's a pic of an early pic, but it's got the plywood mocked up alternator bracket, but you can see the charging post is probably a 1/4 inch from the frame rail, and you need the charging cable, and then you need a bolt and a washer, and the engine will shake a little bit, and I was worried we'd have some contact. So we're going to reclock this alternator and move that charging post down a bit. Okay, so that is what we're up to in this video. Alright, so before we get started, a couple comments here. So this alternator is the stock GM alternator that you would use on a Camaro or Cadillac CTS-V with an LT4 engine. I didn't buy the Corvette version because originally I wanted to use the stock lower alternator mount to mount this, and it turned out that bracket interfered with the water pump on the dry sump version of the LT4. And then, as you saw, probably a good year ago, I made a custom bracket for this. So the bottom line is, this thing is in the way, so I have to rotate it down. But that brings me to a couple comments. I went out and I bought this alternator not really understanding the differences. So if you go to sort of an aftermarket alternator shop, you can buy an alternator with this spacing, and you can get the charging post on the back of the alternator. The other thing is, this is a 3-wire alternator. We got 2 wires here. So you got a negative, we got the positive, and then we have a PWM signal. And this is a variable output alternator, and depending upon the PWM signal, that tells the alternator to charge at a different level. And the easiest alternators to hook up for a kit car is a 1-wire alternator. So in hindsight, I probably should have got a 1-wire alternator and then had a rear charge post mounted, and it would have worked out. But I didn't know any better. But it turns out I'm going to control this alternator with a PWM signal, and I'll cover that when I do the electrical. Alright, but for right now, I had to figure out a way to get this pulley off. It wasn't that straightforward. Okay, so I'll talk about that in the next segue. Alright, well, let's talk about removing the pulley. So it turns out, after a lot of research, there's a lot of videos on YouTube taking pulleys off alternators, but they're all older style alternators, and this is a modern GM alternator. So eventually I tracked down the company that makes this pulley or decoupler, and the name of the company is Litens, Litens. And they actually have a couple videos on taking their pulleys off modern alternators. So it did take me quite a while to track that down. The first step is you take this dust cover off. And unfortunately, this dust cover is sort of a one-time use thing. You have to put a hole in the center of this, and then use sort of a wire hook and then pull it off. You cannot literally pry it off on the edge. So now this thing's sort of destroyed. They don't sell these independently, and this decoupler is about $100. So I'll probably just fab up a dust cover and replace it, but what can you do? The other thing is, these are the tools you need to take these off. So this is made by Gates. I had to track this down. This is an M10 hex, sort of small hex wrench with the shaft on it. And then this is a 17 millimeter hex tool. And this is also made by Gates. Now, I bought the center one from Rock Auto for like $11. This piece was like $45 from Rock Auto from Gates. So I just got a Chinese version on eBay, and it was like $7. The only thing is I had to drill it out a little bit. It didn't clear the shaft. But anyway, this is the way it works. And this is an M10 setup. So you put a wrench here, and then you twist the center, and that'll loosen that bolt up that's in the center of the decoupler. Okay, so we're going to take this off, and then we'll take a look. Okay, well, it took a little muscle to get that decoupler off. So it turned out, I thought this was a nut that threaded on the shaft, but it's actually the shape of the shaft on the alternator. But anyway, to get this off, I mean, this nut needed to be rotated in a clockwise position because it's part of the shaft. I was thinking this needed to go counterclockwise, and all the videos, it's different, they go in different directions. But anyway, it's torqued to like 45 foot-pounds, so I had to get out the breaker bar, and I used this larger wrench and stuck this end in a vise, in a wood vise, and held it tight, and then I was able to get enough leverage on it. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take the back of this off, get these screws out, and we should be able to knock on this and loosen it up against the front cover. The back cover doesn't loosen up, so let's see how it goes. Okay, so I just really cradled the back of the alternator in my hand, and then used a rubber mallet and just tapped it, and that sort of crabbed its way out. And now we can just rotate these, and I'll probably do it something like this, and that'll be sort of down on the bottom. Keep the plug in this away from the frame. So this will work out good. So I think we're in good shape. I'm going to put this all back together. We'll take a look at it on the engine. All right, well, this will be the last segment of this video. So you can see the post is no longer jutting out the side of the engine assembly. Let's go around the side here. All right, beautiful. So it's all the way down on the bottom. So we'll call that mission accomplished. One more little item to get ready to get the engine inside the car. Okay, thanks for watching. All right, take care.